This is the emergency community village survival uh, introduction. Here's the references for it. So what this is this could be anywhere from inside of a house to a closed off neighborhood to an entire city to a survival retreat in the middle of the mountains. It's designed to be as big or as small as you need it to be efficient. I think it needs to have most, if not all, of these functions. And I'll start with some basic concepts. And the idea is to fulfill the functions of each one of these. I call them all departments. So if you have enough people, you'd have one person ahead of each department, and they'd be fulfilling each one of the functions of each and every one of these different areas. So first you'd have this area would be considered downtown, and you'd have your town hall. Town hall would be government type ideas. It would be where the laws are done, the protocols, and in there you would have concepts like the hotel. Hotel would be like if you wanted somebody to stay in your community, you would then be able to charge them. It could be like something like a barter situation. There would be hotels. There would be a general store. That would be like your commercial. That would be your bartering situation. There would be similar to that. There would be a grocery store. That's the store for food, as opposed to different types of goods. And then there'd be under that there'd be communications. This would be the communications department. This would be like the public services, something that's provided to everybody in the community, standard, whether it's a meal a day or something like that. This would be the fire department. This would be the safety department in case of problems inside, electrical fires, outside, earthquake, potential dangers, other types of dangers you wouldn't anticipate in an emergency. Your hospital, that includes everything medical, quarantine, dental, hospice, things like that. Then you'd have, if you're in the downtown area, you'd probably want to build up, so you'd have possibly residential there, but you could also have different stories, maybe even 3 high, where you'd have each one of these in a different, so that way you could have them much more compact. This would be elderly things, preparations to take care of elderly. This would be your church. The religion part would be more like, do you want to have people in the same religion? Do you want to have some concept of charity, some concept of morale, things like that? Not necessarily that it would be dictated by a church or religion. You'd have your police. Police would be in charge more of protecting the community. They'd probably be the guys that'd be on the outer rims, taking shifts, things like that. Bank would be like the idea of like a currency exchange. In other words, a generator is 500 candles, or and then each meal is 3 candles, and then establishing a currency and fair rate. And there'd be the pre-planning department. That would be buying supplies first and building the community prior to that. Also, you'd have a restaurant. That would be just anybody would go there and be connected to the grocery store, so that way you could have either people deliver from here or people go to here to eat, and that would be like a restaurant, that sort of thing. Community barbecues. And then for the process, you would need things like preparing the food. Butchers, bakers would be similar to the snack bar. You would need food storage. That's another department. So you'd go from animal storage, animal food storage, and gardening. And that's where you'd probably get most of your food from that wasn't already prepared. And if it was already prepared, it'd be in food storage. So from here, it goes to here, then it goes to the preparation, and then it goes to selling, whether it's packing or cooking or something else, some sort of preparing. And if you are preparing animals and you have some sort of hide, that would go over to the textile area. And then we'll go over here to the we'll go down here. This would be more of your residential, recreational. This would be your library. Library would be one of the biggest tools, because the more books you have, especially on the areas in the departments, then the more likely you'll be able to create stuff in the manufacturing area. Also, if there's children, there's a school, and the school function would be either daycare or learning from the books in the library. And there should be, it could be like connected with the elderly department. A good idea would be for them to sit around reading books all day, so that way they can give you ideas for, different things like water filters, things like that. Maybe have recreation, have some prior ideas of what you do for recreation. And then this would just be just residential. R&D would be like research and development, think tanks, ideas that come from the library. In other words, all right, how are we going to solve this problem? Well, let's look through it. So people that sit around thinking about certain problems would be connected to that. I wanted to specifically put residential away from downtown because it'd be a lot of commotion, and there'd be many reasons, like you would typically think, that you would want that. Noise problems, you just want to like maybe be more spaced out, and you wouldn't want that next to the animals, so the animals would be close to that, and downtown would be like a buffer between that. Also, it would be a buffer between this section and this entire section over here would be more like your industrial park. Up there you'd have a hygiene department that includes water treatment, bathrooms, cemeteries, anything that has to do with hygiene. It could even include parts of the markets like beauty salon and things like that. Just anything would have to do with hygiene. This would be your building department. This would be anything that needs to be built, possibly connected with the pre-planning department. So you'd have how you would get piping and all these things into the homes, as well as building homes or building additions to homes. You could even put stuff on the side, like a different like an add-on, if you wanted to build that for protection, to keep it close. Along with that, you'd have crafts. Any kind of craft. Could be making paper, making clay pottery, making anything that you would typically make that would just be sort of a normal material. And you'd have textile. That'd be any kind of cloth. It'd be tailors, laundromat, sewing, tanning hides, anything that has to do with wearing clothes. And then you would have your wood shop, and that would be under, I think, manufacturing. And then you'd have your, this would be like additional wood shop, and then be like a blacksmith, and that'd be like your metal shop. And then you'd have your power station, and that would be any kind of way that you would power it. It could even be non-electrical, it'd be like utility belts, some sort of rotation. And then you'd have this, it would be like your storage for whatever you need, whether it's gas, whether it's extra, like a garage with a car in it. It could be any kind of storage. So the people who'd be in charge of that would be charged with like maintenance of it, make things don't rust. So that's why it's a good idea to have a department for each category. And then you'd have your general factory. That'd be like any type of manufacturing. So that'd probably be with the wood and the metal shop underneath it. But it's more of the function of making things efficient in the way you build things. Like if you did the metal shop, you wouldn't want to just have a blacksmith. You'd want to have like an assembly line where you'd have like a casting of iron, and then you can create multiple things from it, so that you can produce a water filter for the whole community very efficiently. And then you'd have your water treatment center, and that'd be connected to your rivers, lakes, cisterns, and other things like that. So that way you could also have like boats, marinas, that sort of thing run through this department. Also, you'd have your transportation department, and they'd be in charge of maintaining roads, establishing them, also delivering things that need to be delivered, any type of food delivery, emergency, like, and it can be something as small as just a wheelbarrow, a golf cart, and they would be in charge of delivering possibly manufactured goods to the city, as well as animal food goods to the downtown area as well, and possibly just like a commute thing going there. It could be something as simple as just getting a ride on somebody else's bike, or it can be literally a tram or a bus or something. And imagine this is the walls of the city. Now, you might not have literal walls, but you're going to want some walls. It could be metaphorical. It could be like an alarm system. It could be a tripwire. Something that'll let you know that there's some way to inhibit some outside threat from getting inside. You could also have a hotel outside. The idea of this is if the entire community was in one house, you could set up like a tent outside of your fenced house. And that way you could have people come in and stay there without having your city or community be in danger. Also, you'd have like your stable or your garage, whatever it is, your transportation, they could be outside so you can quickly go in and out. And this would be like your main gate right here. Also, you'd have, this would be your scout. These would be the guys that would go out and then come back for the main purposes of acquiring other resources. And that would be the mining department. That would be an area outside. It could be anything from acquiring wood, acquiring clay, acquiring animals. Anything like that would be considered a mine because it's a constant resource that comes from the same spot. And you could have several of them, and you'd probably want to establish some sort of cache, small-scale city. Not with everything. You probably wouldn't need like the wood department there, but you'd need like water and food. It could be as small as a backpack, but you'd want to have it there with you in case you had to go there, and you'd also want it to be a possible backup place to go to in case something happened to the city. So these guys would go there, they'd mine, and then they'd stay there if they had to, if something happened, and they'd come back, and then they'd probably bring it back to the manufacturer, whether it be wood, metal, some sort of hunting, wild animal, game, fish, or anything else, clay, anything that would satisfy the needs of each department. And that's the basic introduction.